Hey guys, today we're driving the 2021 Lexus LS500. We are in an F Sport, and Lexus has done a number of updates and changes to the 2021 LS500. We have a new infotainment screen. It's closer to the driver, and it's finally a touch screen, which is very nice. It's still, the user interface is still a little bit of a mess. We've got this touchpad down here. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I am glad that they have finally made this a touchscreen because it makes it a little bit more usable. We do have both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. Let's walk you around this new 2021 LS500 and show you what it's like to drive on the road. We'll do a sound system test at the end of the video with the Mark Levinson and just give you some impressions on what it's been like to live with these last few days. We have some new wheel choices, updated headlights. I'm a little bit sad that they got rid of the old design. It was such a unique design that was kind of split and molded into the front bumper. But that said, this is a little bit more conservative looking. It still looks pretty good. This F Sport with the wheels and the dark chrome, I think looks really sharp, especially in this white. It always seems a bit strange to have an F Sport LS500, but I don't know, I think this trim actually works quite well. Lexus used to go pretty overboard with the interior color on the F Sport trim, and I think they've dulled it down just a bit, and I think it looks pretty good. We have a pretty large trunk in here, some storage underneath. The rear seats do not fold down. In the back here, we've got a ton of legroom and space. Very luxurious, though not as many features as you would expect or see in a lot of other luxury vehicles. There's not a ton of room to put your feet under the driver's seats, but there is a lot of space back here. Of course, this F Sport isn't fully loaded, so we don't have all the features available in the LS500. Overall, though, I think this is a gorgeous interior. The workmanship, the leather, the interior materials, the quality, the design, everything comes together beautifully, and I think it's fantastic to look at and feel. You get a mirror up top, speakers everywhere, above, around you. Got little hooks to hang your dry cleaning from. There is a rear window shade, but only a rearward one. This armrest has a little bit of storage in it. 2.1 amp USB charge ports. Yeah, a beautiful interior from Lexus, and there's a lot of different designs to the door panels and surfacing. Some new ones for 2021. Lexus also has mildly tweaked this 3.5 liter twin turbo V6. Makes 416 horsepower. Made some changes so that it runs a little bit smoother and quieter. It's still rated for 30 mpg on the highway and 19 in the city, which I think for a car like this is quite impressive. We have a number of different drive modes, all selectable up here, inspired by the LFA, which is very cool. You can customize drive modes too. You've got a traction control off in your snow mode here. You can turn on and off the heads-up display very easily right there. And of course, you've got a camera view. You can check the surroundings. We do have a 360 cam and a reverse cam, but this is not impressive at all. It's very low res, not very high quality. So let's talk a little bit about the infotainment here. One strange thing is there's no home screen, so you are just kind of limited in choosing specific screens for specific uses. You're either in Apple CarPlay or you're in your climate screen. And probably my biggest issue with this user interface is that it's just so darn difficult to control at speed when you're driving. This little touchpad down here is very inaccurate. It jumps around even on the normal or slow setting. It's pretty difficult to control. And I do like that this is now a touchscreen. It's not as cleanly and beautifully integrated into the dashboard as the last version was, but at least now you can reach and touch it and control things a little bit easier, but you still do have to reach down into this touchpad to do some tasks. It's not a very fast system either. It's very slow and laggy, and at speed when you're driving, trying to use this and navigate around is very, very difficult and very frustrating. I think the purpose of a luxury vehicle is to relax you and calm you, and this infotainment does the opposite. It stresses you out and it frustrates you. I did prefer the old mouse system that Lexus used in the past. I think that was a little bit easier to jump from one side of the screen to the other, and it was more accurate. This touchpad, though, the tuning this is 2021. We've got to be doing better at this point. I hope Lexus comes up with something that is an improvement on this in their next generation of products, because this is almost a deal breaker for me at this point. All right, let's move on. We've got a couple of cup holders here, a really nice center area with some storage here. You can plug your phone in. I do like that this is a volume and a tune knob, and they're both beautifully integrated within each other. We do have buttons for climate control, which is great, but if you want to turn on your heated seats or your cooled seats, you have to go in. We do have a button that takes you there quickly now, which is fantastic, but you still have to go in and control them or touch them to turn them on. And you have this also, it's called Climate Concierge, and it will automatically turn on your heated seats and your heated steering wheel. But not everyone has the same preferences. Nothing beats just a simple button that you can press and move on with your life. All right, let's see what this LS500 is like on the road. Today we have a rear-wheel drive LS500 F Sport, and I have always said that the rear-wheel drive LSs drive so much nicer and ride so much softer than the all-wheel drive versions. Let's get us into Apple CarPlay here. Lexus has also done a few tweaks to the suspension in this new 2021 LS. They've softened things up. The ride quality has improved. They've also stiffened some of the sway bars. Little tweaks here and there. I think Lexus has listened to their customers with this refresh. You do get a good amount of power from this V6, and it sounds pretty good in normal mode. You bump it up into Sport or Sport Plus, you get quite a bit of piped in sound from the speakers. But you see there's just a ton of lag from this transmission, and even when you let off the throttle, the car keeps accelerating still for just a millisecond. It's a little bit disconcerting. It does okay. The handling is great. The ride quality is very nice. Let's do a little 0 to 60 here. You can turn off traction control. It's pretty quick too. Let's put it into manual mode, see what the paddles are like. In the real world, though, in practice, does any of this matter? Not really. This is still a fantastic car to drive. It's very luxurious. It's very comfortable. It has plenty of power. It delivers it when you need it. This 10-speed honestly does a pretty good job of utilizing the torque in this 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6. It doesn't sound particularly good, and it's not necessarily an exciting powertrain, but for the most part, it's quiet, it stays in the background, and it does what you need it to. There's a lot of torque and a lot of pull at low RPM, so you definitely get that smooth wave of torque that kind of shoves you into the back of your seat. You feel like you have a lot of power in this LS500, which is nice. You don't have to wring it out a lot to get there. Let's talk about the radar cruise. So this is a pretty decent system. I've been using it for the last couple days. It works really well on the highway, and it actually works pretty well on back roads too. The lane keep assist isn't as nicely refined and well tuned, but it's definitely an improvement over the last 2020 LS500. It still tends to bounce between the lines. It works a little bit better on the highway at speed. It's okay for occasional use. If you just need to turn it on and go in and get lost in the infotainment, it'll work. And I like that you can quickly turn it on and off with a button right here on the steering wheel. Let's see how this does around a corner here. We'll put it into sport mode just for fun. I had a chance to drive this LS500 on the back road in California when they launched it. I was pretty impressed with it around the twisties. It did a really nice job sensing that I was in a performance driving environment. We don't really have enough winding road segments here in Michigan to string much together, but the handling is quite good. The ride balance is very well controlled. For a luxury car, all of your inputs feel about right. The steering is very nice and light. The materials in here are fantastic. There's not a lot of wind or road noise at speed. The cruise control is pretty simple. You just have to press the button a lot of times to raise your speed or hold it down. It doesn't skip 5 mile-an-hour increments or anything like that. Let's see how well it gets around this semi-truck here. It accelerates reasonably quickly around vehicles to resume a higher speed. We've got quite a bit of wind today. We've got a snowstorm coming in, so we've got a little bit more wind noise in this LS500 than you would have normally, but for the most part, this is a very quiet and comfortable car to drive on the highway. And with getting 30 mpg on the highway, you'll be pretty efficient as well. Let's go in and listen to some music in this Mark Levinson. I actually do really like this. This is a touchscreen now. And you know, here's the thing with this infotainment. You get it all set up, you get used to it after a while. It is frustrating to use if you need to go in and change a setting. But for the most part, you can just get away with using Apple CarPlay in this. Satellite radio is a little bit finicky to switch back and forth to and from. But if you're okay with just using CarPlay or Android Auto, this works quite well. And I'm really glad that you can just reach and touch it now. It's a little bit of a far reach, but it works. It's not the end of the world. Let's listen and see what this Mark Levinson sound system is like. This Mark Levinson is very impressive. I'm not quite sure it's their best system. I was a little bit more impressed with the LC500's Mark Levinson sound system, but this is pretty darn good. It's definitely not class leading, but within the Lexus lineup, this is definitely one of the nicer Mark Levinson units. So how can we sum up this LS500? Well, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. There's some things I really, really like about this car, and there's some things that are just infuriating. The infotainment and the tech is just lacking in today's landscape of luxury vehicles. Yes, this is a lot less expensive than the competition. It's going to be a lot more reliable than the Germans. It's going to last you for a long time. It's a very nice car to drive and live with, except for the few things that I've brought up in this video. I think, is a car like this worth it? If you're going to be holding on to something for just a few years, I don't think the LS500 is worth it. I would rather pay a little bit extra, get an S-Class, and just have a car that works as a more cohesive luxury experience. If you're going to buy this and hold on to it for 10 years, then yes, get the LS500, because while the BMWs and Mercedes will be mechanically totaled from maintenance and complications, this will still be running strong, chances are. So, you know, it's kind of the old argument of the LS500 versus the rest of the luxury lineup throughout the world. I think this is a great car. It just falls short in some aspects that I think are really crucial and key in today's luxury landscape. And I do hope that Lexus can address this in their future models. This is a big improvement over the 2020. I think the little subtle changes that they've done here with this 21 LS have made a difference, and they do add up to a very nice overall experience. And I'm sure if I spent some more time in this car that I would get more used to this infotainment, but I don't know, the operation on this touchpad I still think is kind of inexcusable in a modern vehicle. I will say that I vastly prefer this rear-wheel drive LS500 to the all-wheel drive. We have a 2020 all-wheel drive and this 2021 rear-wheel drive car this week, and the ride quality and the way this just floats down the road is so much nicer than the all-wheel drive variant. If you were to get an LS500, I would highly recommend the rear-wheel drive. I think the all-wheel drive rides stiffer, the steering isn't as nice. This is just kind of how it was meant to be, and I really, really do like the way this car drives. It definitely doesn't put his power down as well as the all-wheel drive LS500. You see the traction control light flashing quite a bit, and in winter conditions you might struggle to get through some of the snow. This does have a lift mode on the air suspension, so it'll lift the vehicle up. You get a little more ground clearance, which is nice. But I would definitely recommend the rear-wheel drive if you live in a warmer climate where you don't see a lot of inclement weather. If you're in the Midwest or up north, you're probably going to want the all-wheel drive just to get through the snow. Alright guys, well those are my thoughts on the new 2021 LS500. As always, let me know if you have any questions in the comments. We will also be posting some more videos on this car on the Winding Road Magazine YouTube channel. And Charlie from Daily Motor will also have a couple videos on this as well. We'll pull in here, walk you guys around the car one more time, and wrap things up. Press the P button to park. Alright guys, thanks again for watching. Appreciate all the support lately. We will see you in the next video. Take care.